Here we are with the Tecumseh Series 1 carburetor from the 8 horsepower snowblower engine, and we're going to take this apart. And I picked up a rebuild kit for it. This is the original Tecumseh part 632347. 632347. And we'll start off by taking these brackets off. This is the control arm for the choke. This is the bracket that holds the heater box on. Okay, so here's the carb by itself without the brackets, and what we're going to do is to open up the bowl. We have a 7/16 wrench. Here's the float, the old gasket, and what we want to do, there's a pin here. You can slide this pin out, lift the float off, and you'll see the float needle is attached there. Now, other parts that we want to get to inside here is the seat, the needle seat, and that's a new seat is located in here. And this carb looks pretty clean, but I'm going to run it through the ultrasonic cleaner before we put it back together. Okay, now we've got the carburetor all cleaned up, and I've got the parts laid out here, the new parts laid out. And what I'm going to do first of all is to replace this needle, which is the idle mixture screw, and that would be this one here, and there's a rubber washer. And so to start with, let's turn it in and find out how far it goes in before it seats. So there's half a turn, and that's where it seats lightly. So it's one full turn in from where it seats, and we'll remember that as we unscrew this valve all the way. Take the spring, Put the needle aside because we have a new one. And inside here we have a brass washer. Take a little pick here. There's the brass washer. There's a little rubber washer. What I'm going to do is take the new rubber washer, set it in place, put that little brass washer back in place, take the new needle and the spring, and now I'm going to turn it all the way in so it seats lightly. Okay, there it's seated lightly. Now I'm going to back it out one full turn. There's a half and there's a full, and that's the initial adjustment. We may need to adjust it a little bit more when we put it back on the engine, but that's what we're going to do for now. Now underneath the carburetor, inside this hole is a little rubber seat, and I want to pull that out as well. Set that aside because I've got a new one here. And now there's a groove on one side and not the other. When we put this in place, we want to make sure the groove is down in the hole. And I forgot my punch. I usually take a punch like this and I use it to gently press this down into the hole until it bottoms out like that. Okay. Now sometimes I will take the Welch plug here. That goes here. I'll pop that out and put the new one in there. But this one cleaned up pretty good, and I'm just going to leave it be for now. So now we're going to take our needle, our new needle, and our spring, our clip, snap it in place, and we take our float and it goes like so. Now we want to very carefully get the needle in the hole there. Take the new pin, slide it through here, and there we have it. Now this particular float should be about 11/64. There should be a 11/64 space between the float and the carburetor body, and it's usually pretty parallel. But if you'd like to check it, you could take an 11/64 drill bit and put it in there. And if it's a little off, what you can do is pull this back out, And there's this tang here on the float. You can bend it up or down to adjust the height. Do that very carefully. I won't have to replace it. Put the needle back in place. Now when you're looking at the position of the spring that's holding the needle in place, make sure that's in this position where the end here is pointed this way. Now there's actually too much room, so I'm just going to press down a little bit. Bit much yet. Yeah, it's just barely touching there, so that's good. Now we take our new washer, make sure it's seated down. Now we're going to put the bowl on now, and you see the bowl has a flat spot here, and we want to make sure that flat spot is roughly over the hinge part of the float here. There's a little dimple you might notice right here in the bowl, and that is to prevent the float, when the carburetor is right side up, that prevents the float from sticking inside the bowl and causing problems. There we go. Now we're going to take our bowl nut. There's a fiber washer that goes on here. Snug that up with our 7/16 wrench. There we go. Now the main needle here, again we're going to turn it in till it seats lightly, but this time we're going to back it out about 1.5 turns for the initial setting. Okay, it's already seated, and now we're going to turn it out 1, there's a half, there's 1, and there's a half. So now your carburetor is rebuilt. Put these brackets back on. Now this bracket goes here, and there's a hole in here, and allows a screwdriver to be able to go in there and adjust that for fine tuning on the engine. This bracket is for the choke, and it sits like so up into there, and then as you turn the knob you'll see how it chokes the engine. So we'll put that back together, and then we'll get back to work on the engine.